knows?
It's hay fever. Be over soon. So one thing that we never do on the podcast is a good introduction.
Okay.
True.
So if you want, I'll introduce you.
We just kind of
Here's the intro.
we just kind of amble through it, and then we're up and going.
Just remind me, it is live, isn't it?
Oh no,
right. Okay, it's just recorded, and then you put it out later. All right, okay.
Yeah, it's
So
recorded.
you edit it.
So we try not to edit it unless there's something that we might get sued by someone.
It's quite.
You can say you can swear as much as you want. That's not a problem.
The only word that you can't say is
Rob.
Well, I don't know then, do I? I mean, we're allowed to slag people off. I mean, I'm primarily there to slag people off.
well, you just
Okay.
we'll take you as you are.
All right, okay.
Okay, this could be a good one. So, welcome, Guy.
Thank you for having me.
Guy Cowan.
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
And we'll start again. It's Cowen.
Is it?
Yeah.
Cowan.
Cowen, not
As in
Cowen.
as in the moo cow.
As in moo cow, yeah.
Right.
Because Cowen's more of a Jewish sounding name, and I'm more of a Welsh background.
Oh right.
So it's Cowen.
Let's not start off by slagging off the Jews.
I wasn't slagging off the Jews. I was pointing out that Cowen's more of a Jewish person. So I've got nothing against. I've got nothing against nearly all the Jews.
Nearly all the Jews. Jesus.
Oh my god.
I'm sweating.
Yeah, it's like fucking hell. We've got 3 minutes. He said.
So
Whittled it down. Sorry, Bob.
So, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This one's going to be right, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Hey guys, so thanks for joining us this time, and I am,
All of us.
we are joined by Guy Cowan,
Cowen, thank you. Yes.
also known as Archive X Paints,
Yes, thank you for having me.
Mr. Archive X.
Yeah, I don't know how, but I am. It all seems to happen.
So yeah, I think let's get right into that. How did that happen? Because it was kind of a weird thing, because obviously we've known you for a long time, since before that.
Yeah.
From your scale model stuff, we've just looked at them in wonder from afar, and then you started talking. Oh, I'm developing these paints, and then we'd see you every few months, and it would grow and grow, and then it just kind of exploded.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Well, thank you. It was. There's two ways of telling this story. There's the truth, and there's the sensible answer. So I'll go with the truth, but it might be liable. So let's just see what happens.
Okay.
No, I love models. Everyone we know loves Star Wars things. We're all hugely passionate about Star Wars things. For me, it was building things such as this lovely Y-wing here and other things. And I got very obsessed with having been the one person to be ripped off more than anybody else trying to recreate Slave One. And realizing through various people in various countries that if you're going to do something, don't rely on somebody who's going to rip you off. Do it yourself. So I started the venture, which you're fully aware of on Slave One, because you helped me along with that, with the back pulls and stuff. And through having that, I thought, well, why stop with the kit parts in the same way RS does? You want to achieve the best you can get. And we know a lot about the history of the paint used. We don't know every brand of paint. We don't know every single thing. There's no written evidence anywhere to say you must use this colour, but we knew they used the railroad Flocal range, and we could see it in photographs. And
I'm just pouring a glass of water. If it sounds like I'm emptying my colostomy bag or something, it's
no, it's fine.
It's just the water.
Fine. I'm tapping your foot all the time through, so I know when you're not safe. Yeah, so it was. Let's try the paint. Let's try, and I started working with a few people. One of them's a particular man in America who was an avid Flocal collector, and he had 75 versions of every single colour they've ever made, and he knew everything. And but he didn't also like not being right, and I found it very difficult to work with him. And he had some great ideas, and he had one of the most immense collections ever. And I decided I need to not study with him because he'll hold me back, because he wants it to be what he knows and I think it's something else. So it all very quickly fell apart. It wasn't a business idea. It was just, let's work out the right colours. And through that process, I realised, through this person and research, that what you can buy now on eBay, like in Flocal ranges, is mostly enamel. It's mostly from the 90s. But let's say, for example, a colour like Reefer Grey in an enamel from the 90s looks nothing like a Reefer Grey from the 70s in a lacquer. So the thought is, well, if you're going to do this, do it properly. So I started researching, studying, getting catalogues, vintage paints, and something landed in my lap, which was, to me at the time, priceless. Bearing in mind, at the time, this was a tiny little venture, mostly for myself and my friends. So there was never Archive X didn't exist. Just having the right colours for doing the thing we love is what mattered. And then, thankfully, through to my past being involved with guitars, I had a contact at a paint factory in Manchester. So I went back to them and said, I've got this little idea. Can you just match these colours for me? Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that for you. No problem whatsoever. And then this miracle thing happened, which landed in my lap, which gave me access to vintage colours. And I went back to them and said, you did that little thing for me. Well, can you do it like 10 times bigger? Oh, right, okay. And it's Star Wars. Yeah, we'll do it. So literally, I got all the R&D, all the paint matching as a gift from HMG Paints, which I can't say thank you enough, because as a business, they would charge people a lot of money for doing this. And they totally knew this was something weird, something a little bit unusual. And they thought, let's back him on it. So then it was actually more difficult to get the labels and the bottles than it was the paint.
Yeah, I
so
remember.
I solved all that, not to my best ability, but the best I could do with what we could get. And the concept of having Star Wars colours happened in April. And in the November of the same year, 2017, I sold my first bottle of paint. So it was that quick a turnaround. And it was just a Facebook page. And people said, can I buy it? I was like, yeah. So I used to just do invoices through PayPal, and it was small and tiny. And I never for 1 minute thought, this is going to become a company. This is something I'll end up doing full time. It was just, it seemed other people wanted it as well, and more people wanted it. And then I found that literally I was just daily shipping boxes of paint to America. And with that, there was always the talk of acrylics. And step forward 5 years, I think it's the 5th anniversary of Archive X this November. For about a year and a half, we've been selling the acrylic water-based. The enamels have completely stopped now. They're not for likes of yourselves, because we're able to sell them to you because you're a company. You don't sell them, you use them. Mm-hmm. So with the new rules and regulations, that's not an issue. Putting Archive X enamel paint in a pot and putting it on a shelf or in selling it is now no longer, you just can't do it as part of UK law because of the contents of the paint. Whereas you still get the benefit, I still get the benefit, the customer doesn't. But the water-based has just been tenfold what the enamel ever was. So now, I was, after doing the Adam Savage little thing, with the little nice little, let's write to Adam Savage, give him a few bottles of paint, see if he sees it. Never thought anything would come of it. I was walking the dog in Delamere Forest with my partner, and my friend Lee, who's here now, was ringing me. Like, have you seen it? Have you seen it? Have you seen it? I was like, no. He said, he's done a whole episode on Archive X paint, and I was just in the middle of a forest going, I've got this signal, I can't see it. And from that, the best thing that came from that was that a company in America came forward and said, we love what you've done, we would like to sell Archive X paint, at the exact same time that I was contacting distributors who literally didn't know who I was, never heard of me, and weren't interested. So I was a bit, it was quite difficult. Everything had been on the up. And then when you hit a hurdle, it's like, how am I going to get past this hurdle where people, there is a place in the modelling market for my product, but they don't care about it. So they're not really going to invest in it. And thankfully, New Type came to me and said, we're a growing company. We've done this, we've done that, we've done this. Love it. We had loads of video chats, and he agreed, yeah, I'll carry Archive X for you in the USA, which meant most of my free time was free time again. I wasn't selling, wrapping the paint, and I've done the same with a local company to you, Element Games in the UK. Mm-hmm. So the next phase is really really need to knuckle down, try and get an EU distributor sorted. And if I get the right EU distributor, who I've already spoken to, they've got access to the Asia market as well. So there's a potential of it growing. And also I need to introduce new colours. I've got a few more new colours to do and some metal colours and vintage, like R2D2 colours and things. So I need to, once this project's over, start putting more energy back into Archive X. And here we are today, almost 5 years later. And I've quit my job. I'm full-time Archive X and I'm loving it.
Time flies. Can't believe it's 5 years.
Yeah, it's 5 years.
Just crazy.
Yeah, it's 5 years.
So who are the people who are interested in Archive X? Have you found that it's people making replica props as well as the models, or does it tend to be a lot more on the
It's more on the model side. The trouble with replica props, when I say props, I'm classing costumes in that as well, is I'm not stupid. And a lot of people in the past have published their thoughts on things like Boba Fett and costume. But as Archive X, because I didn't ever want to be questioned on why I've got that colour, I chose historical research first. So very often people have said, like Boba Fett green is this specific green. And I'd look at it and go, well, that was first released in 1991. So it isn't that green. But you can't just go, you're wrong. You've got to be polite and respectful about it. And also, I learned very quickly that within certain communities, certain colours have been gospel for 15 years.
Yeah.
So to try and change that is nigh on impossible, really. The only thing that can change it is when people start being a bit open-minded towards it and maybe not being them and seeing the results of when you do use them. So that was a big sort of drive in the early days of trying to get the FET community to understand that maybe you might not be right, maybe I'm not right, but historically, and also having, without going too long into the story, having some access to the armour and helmets, we got the Archive X colours in the archive. So we were able to see the colours next to the helmet, and a lot of them were like, yep. Not always that, because there's so many layers on these things that you've got to see through colour to see the colour underneath it. You've got to estimate, could it be that with that on top of it? And you know, so you've got to have a good eye. And if I was in there myself personally, I'd be like, I'd know exactly what to do, how to perceive something rather than look at what it is. I mean, I had a friend years ago who said, oh, your Falcon colour's completely wrong. I said, yeah, but it's meant to be wrong because you've got to put more colours over the top of it, which makes it right. If you've got a red...
And underneath it.
And underneath it, yeah. Something like a SB Daylight Red, which I advocate as a good Falcon colour.
I mean, it is tricky.
Yeah, because you've got to reverse engineer colour
with
layers.
And having your base layer correct, and then your layers on top, and then you'll paint a colour and it will...
And there's
it's nowhere near the finished colour. But
there's an infinite amount of ways to get it wrong with the right colours. So a lot of it's down to talent as well, and on relearning how to not do too much misting or not too much staining if you want. But at the end of the day, the way I sort of say to people, I used to be a lot more defensive in early days because I was trying my best and I was on my own, and people thought Archive X was this big company, and it's not. It was me on my own all the time, 24 hours a day, advocating myself and trying to go, well, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just telling you what we sell. So the way I look at it is, it's a tool set. This is a tool set that ILM had. Use it. I'll help you use it where we can. I don't know everything. But more recently I get, what's the blue on this costume, on this EU expanded game? And it's like, it doesn't work like that. It's that's your choice to do what you want there. I can't help you. I don't even know what it is you're talking about. They are Star Wars. They're not Star Wars colours. They're ILM specific colours. And that's a little bit of education. So like, obviously it's the people who paint Legion and things like that. They think it's Star Wars colours, which it is, but it's railroad colours used by ILM. So there is a limitation to that, is you can't help people. But they think you've got all the answers because it's Star Wars colours, but it's primarily, it's just a tool set.
They just want that paint list.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The vet guys used to have, and it's...
Yeah, I mean, we all know...
It's this green, it's this yellow, it's this orange, and...
Yeah. But, I mean...
Away you go, and it's painting by numbers, but Ireland wasn't like that.
No. I've spent 2 hours on the video chat with Sandy, and she didn't know anything. You know, Joe would be the one to talk to, but he's not communicative about it. But still to this day, I still don't think anybody's ever painted a Fett helmet correctly. Not because I think I can, it's because I'm convinced there's something that no one's ever done, which is there's red under the cheeks. And I've never seen a professional painted helmet with red under the cheeks, because no one's ever took it to that extreme before. But when you've got a paint brand and you're trying to push your paint, you've got to look beyond everything. The more information you can give to somebody, the more legitimate that you sound. Although I've never painted a Fett cheek, well, I have actually with the red. I haven't done a masterful piece of work, but I can see the red in the scars and shapes under the black. And when you're painting black over red, it goes a certain inky colour, which works in certain light in photography. So you've got to look at light photography, what is under the black. And I know, because I can see it, there's red under the black. So I look forward personally to the day when people, you know, have done the 75th Fett helmet and there's red under the black and they've acknowledged it and they can see it. But if you try and tell someone, they'd be like, there's certain people that just they'd rather have you shot, hung, drawn and quartered for saying that what they've done is wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying that what Ireland did. You can always take it to the next level. And I think ArchiveX want to try and push people. Don't just paint it yellow and blue and grey and red. It's blue with grey on top with a little bit of red, and there's a splodge of this. And if you use all these colours and you get it right, it looks like an old model from new.
Getting it right, that's
the
tricky bit.
Experience and practice. But if you've got a bunch of Tamiya colours or Vallejo colours and you want to get it right, this is what we all used to do. We used to sit there mixing and try. This hopefully just tries to eliminate that process.
A bit of the mixing so you can concentrate more on the application.
Yeah. But I mean, on the Bill George Y-Wing, I've had to mix the colours. I've used all the ArchiveX range, but this was painted by somebody at home and then touched up by ILM. So from what I can see from the photography that we have of it and the pictures we do have, and some of them are really, really good, it's not quite within my range, but I know I can get my range to get it. So even I mix ArchiveX paint. It's not, you must use this colour out of this bottle. It's just a tool set. If you want to use it for spreading on your toast, I do not advocate it.
You've got to use your eye.
It. But if someone, if you want to make toast art and draw flowers on the pillows at night, they can do what they want with it, but it's just a tool set.
It's tricky though, isn't it, when you're relying on somebody's eye and their perception of
and everybody sees colour differently, which is kind of...
Some people see shapes differently as well.
Yeah, and many other things. Speed limits differently. The government see what they believe and what we should do very differently.
So we've got this...
Yeah.
We've got this huge model in front of us, and it is a whopper.
It is a whopper.
Let's talk about that then. If you've
so
we've kind of leaned into it a little bit.
Again, this is through ArchiveX with me and Lee Ralph, and it's a model called the Bill George Y-Wing, which many people know about, many people don't know about, many people don't care about. Some people love. I fall under the category of love. Lee comes under the category of love. This model has been in exhibitions. It was in Return of the Jedi. Long story short, Bill George was a young man who wanted to work for ILM. I think he may have already been working on some films. I'm not sure if he was in the industry or he was just at the cusp of wanting to get in. He saw reference photos of the Y-Wing model from A New Hope in a book and thought, that's what I'll do. So he recreated at home, using what he knew, a Y-Wing. And he took it to ILM and went, when they were at Van News, and went, can I have a job, please? This is what I can do. And they went, wow. Yes, here's Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. So he went on to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. When that finished, he went on to Return of the Jedi, and he was one of the main model builders on Return of the Jedi. He's since won Oscars and worked on many things, including the new Disney parks. Now, he's hugely influential in the industry, in our hobby especially. When Return of the Jedi finished, in the production walk-around with all the props, costumes, models and everything with George Lucas, the producers, it was like, keep bin, keep, trash, keep, bin, keep, trash, throw, keep, buy. And it came to Bill George Y-Wing, and they said, we've got a problem here. We own the IP. It's our IP, but we don't own the model. Buy it, next. So for whatever price, they gave Bill George some money, and he's very happy with this because, he's getting more money than just being, and his model was in Return of the Jedi. He calls it the Cinderella. It's his Cinder's model. Shall go to the ball, but it's a huge moment for him. That was his ticket in to the industry, as far as I can see, and he's never owned it. And it's always been called the Bill George Y-Wing. It's not just a Y-Wing or Red Leader or Red Jammer or whatever. It's the Bill George Y-Wing. So when a friend of ours called David Emmerichs, who's a wonderful cameraman within the industry, put some pictures online of this model in an exhibition. And for the first time, we had a really good set of images from most angles, apart from the underside. So Lee started IDing it, and he's like, right, we've found this, and this. And it's like, should we try?
So this differs from
It's hugely different.
A&H Y-Wings.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same in the sense of he's copied what he could see, using the sack cans, using the T-strip for the struts and all that kind of stuff. And it's got a front, it's got a middle, it's got engines. He's copied it brilliantly, but it's his model. It's done his way. It's his dimensions. A few people have said, they've used loads of the same kit parts. Actually, he hasn't. This is a completely different model. I think there's maybe one kit on it that's shared, two kits on it that's shared. The rest is completely unique to this model. We've studied this. Every single millimetre of it, we've studied it. When we told Bill was involved with me slightly, got to know him a little bit. He's not a friend, he's an associate, and he's very, very kind. He's very, very gracious with me in Archive X. He uses the paints. He sent me some reference of Slave One, which he had of his own personal reference, which was hugely helpful at the time. So we approached him and said, have you got any pictures of the underside? And the next thing, we get this folder with 50 images, and it's, shit. There's like directly above, close-ups, high-res, all photographs though, not non-digital, but these have been digitally scanned. And so this was like, boom, we can do it. We can actually do this. So we both sat down, started looking at dimensions, started looking for kit parts. We found pretty much 98% of the kit parts. So we're able to get a really good scale to get the dimensions.
So this
really,
is
really good.
How much of this actual model is kit bashed?
Everything that's got a unique shape to it on the outside is kit bashed. So, like, for example, like this neck piece here, the whole piece is scratch built, so it's not kit bashed. There's a few kit parts inside it. On the original Y-Wing, it was an 8-rad part, so he's sort of scratch built the 8-rad part as he sees it. So things like this whole area is scratch built, all styrene. But the 2 or 3 little things on the inside are kit parts. Everything that's on, like, say, around the droid plate, kit parts, these are ILM parts which were added after when it was used for the film. Because when it was at ILM, they had to rip it open, put an armature inside, change the guns, put an ILM cockpit on, which this is lineage or lineage to an ILM cockpit. This is cast from an original ILM cockpit. So, so that's...
So
for us,
what
huge.
was the original cockpit like?
Exactly the same as that.
All right, okay.
That is a Y-Wing. That is cast from a Y-Wing, actual Y-Wing.
No, so when Bill made it, did he
We've only seen,
he
I
scratched
see what you
Bill
mean,
one?
sorry. We've only seen one picture of it with just this rear section, so it's completely different. He would have looked something like that, but it was something he scratched himself and wasn't so fussed about every curve. He wasn't trying to match that. He was just making a Y-Wing at home as well as he could. So we've actually never seen the front of it. So, we've never seen the original guns in high res or anything. We've seen some images of them, but they're not, they're too blurred to make out what it is. So, and he's given us everything he knows that he's got. So, but yeah, everything on the top is all the usual, not used on other Y-Wings, but, there's Ferrari, there's, some unusual tanks in there. There's stuff we've never come across before. And, there was one particular find that was, for me, was just a eureka moment, complete fluke, because I lost a part, couldn't find it.
So presumably ILM had multiple kits of a load of stuff and lots of
Racks
lots of
and
it
racks.
appears across different
Yeah,
models
a
in
New
the Star
Hope-
Wars universe.
A New Hope tended to be more obscure.
So
but
this one must stand out a little bit because it wasn't built by them.
yeah, it's completely different.
And is that the love affair with it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's new. If all of a sudden there was a new Stormtrooper helmet that no one had ever seen before that was in a scene that got cut and the scene's new, all emphasis will be on that because it's new, not because it's better or worse or it's something new. And for us, no one, as far as we knew, had ever tackled the Bill George Y-wing. No, I'd never seen one built, never seen one ID'd.
But the interest for this must be that while if you're looking across all the different scale models, because we do it as well with the Grievers and stuff, you look to other costumes for inspiration of what that might have been. Whereas with this,
there's very few kits used on this. The fortunate thing for us is most of because he's done it at home, he hasn't got the budget of someone like ILM, so he hasn't gone to a stack of maybe 150 different types of model and drawn from each one. He's probably had a limited amount of models at home, or he's bought them because he's recognised parts, and he's tended to use the same model kit again in different places.
So there's a lot more scratch build on this. Maybe more than you would get on the average ILM model.
No, I would say it's equal amount of scratch building in the shape, but the detailing's got less kit parts. It's got the same amount of kit parts, but from less kits.
Less kits.
So like, where the New Hope Y-wing might have 106 different model kits used on it, this might be in the region of about 18. So he's budgeted, but he's still used parts.
106.
I don't know, something like that. I'm not claiming that to be an accurate figure, but there might be something like 106 kits used on.
Wow.
Was because this has been done by him at home, and he's not under any pressure to do what he's just making a nice Y-wing at home. We found that actually there's a lot less kits used than the average model. I mean, something like the Cloud Cars maybe got like 4 kits used on it because it's mostly scratch built. So, but with this model, even though it looks really, really complex, he has scratch built quite a few bits of the details, and so. But anything that's uniquely shaped is a kit part, yeah. And the underside, to nail the underside, is for us was just like because it's not really ever been seen. It's not publicly been seen.
So there were photographs in the reference of the underside.
Mostly of the underside, which is the thing we needed. So it was to us. It was just light bulb moment.
So they've broke this down to fit an armature.
Yeah, they broke it.
So before then, there was nothing in it at all.
Probably not. No empty space, and they own other than the structural things he used to create it. You know, like blocks of styrene.
So what did he do? He was sitting it down on the table.
When he was
when it was built, when it was finished out.
It was on a similar base to that, and it had legs. It also had legs. It did have legs, didn't it? Yeah, it had legs as well. So the legs have gone, and the cockpit slightly changed, and also these details have been replaced with ILM ones. So I don't know what there's a name for them, but I call them I haven't got a name for them. I lied. The things on the engine, struts, the Y-wing struts. But yeah, in some ways it's a lot more simple. It's not as complicated, but in others it's hugely more complicated. It's hard to describe. But certain areas much more detailed than they are on the Y-wings, and other areas it's a different beast, and it's bigger. It's a lot bigger, and the pilot's a different scale. We found the pilot, so it's not in the same scale if you're going by the pilot, because I know people like to know what the scale is, whereas it's just
you've said it now. What scale is this?
I'm not telling you.
Okay.
Because that'll give the pilot information away. I found it. I'm keeping it to myself, other than Lee. Yeah,
that's okay.
It's not your usual scale. So if people want to go out and build a Bill George Y-wing, I'm helping them. Don't look for a 124 pilot. It doesn't exist.
It's not 124.
No, it's not 124.
No. Were the original Y-wings 124 then?
Probably. Yeah. It's classed as a 124. It's studio scale. I mean, they probably didn't care. The guys building it were like, none of them cared. They were just building it the size they needed it. but from us replicating something that existed in real life, it's roughly 1/24. But this one isn't. It's special scale.
There you go.
It's archive
Special
scale.
scale.
Bill George scale. Yeah. So, I think with this one it's the fact it's never been done before. The fact that no one currently that I'm aware of, plenty of people could have done it at home and never talked about it, but we could say that about anything. You know, somebody could have invented a spaceship that can get you to Mars, but they don't talk about it. So
I don't like to talk about it.
no, I know. But that didn't get you to Mars, did it, though?
No. Might do next time.
Possibly. I was going to say something that's probably best not to. Yeah, so it's being done. It's never been done before. Currently, that is the only other Bill George Y-wing in the world. There's one in the Lucasfilm archive, and there's the one in front of you now, which is made pretty much. Even with, you know, we've even gone to the thickness of the styrene plates that he's used. We've matched everything where we can physically copy what he's done. For like this whole next section was built separately, but we had to think about that plate at the top's actually thicker than the plate on the bottom, so we had to work it. Or we've tried to engineer it to be a replica. The other thing is because these are going to be cast and sold as finished replicas.
You're going to make some of these.
We are making some of these, yeah. The molding process is already in happening. It's the casts are being made. We've yet to have a fully assembled cast one. Once we get that and we green light all the molds to make sure we're happy with the way the casts are coming out, this will be a flawless replica. This will be the only Y-wing ever sold. As far as I'm concerned, between me and Lee, no one will ever have bought a more accurate Y-wing build and paint than this, because
of the Bill George.
No, of any, because the MR Y-wing was inaccurate in form and one of the worst paint jobs ever done by a factory. It was. Even Steve Damnimzio was slagging his own Y-wing paint job off on a group on Facebook the other day, and he blamed all the staff, blamed everybody, but he was the boss. So it's like, no, you failed. Steve Neeson's lovely kits. Everyone's really only had Steve Neeson's kit for years. Steve's first 10 kits are amazing. The 15's probably quite good, but the molds don't get replaced. It just churns out, and eventually they start coming out looking a bit like the blobs attack them, and there's bits of, they're very difficult to build. They're a bit warped, and so you get scruffy, and then you got to paint them yourself. So there's always, we aim for this to be the most clean, accurate, perfect Star Wars model replica ever sold, which isn't that hard to achieve because there's some dirge out there. But even with the master replicas stuff, you're going to get the paint job and the crispness of the build, the casting. There won't be holes, there won't be clag, it will look like
clag. It's a good word.
Yeah, it is clag.
Clag.
It is clag.
But this is going to be clag free.
It's going to be clag free. It's going to be painted with as much love as that was painted, which is also difficult to find. I rephrase that. It's impossible to find in a replica licensed piece. So it's going to be limited to very small numbers. And I think at the moment, because we've not done a significant amount of them, as in we've built our own. Lee built all the masters. I built this to finish it so I could do the paint master. So we've got Lee's built but unassembled and mine fully assembled. We've yet to do a replica one. Once that starts, we might change our mind and say, sod it, it's only 10. But at the moment, we're sort of edging towards 16, possibly no more than 16 sold over, say, 2 years or something. We're not just going to churn them out. We're going to do them.
Okay, so Archive X has been around
5 years, nearly
5 years.
Yeah.
But you've been working on it for a little bit before that. Obviously, studio scale models has been a big interest of yours for a lot longer than that.
2008, I'd say. I first met Lee, who sat over there in the corner. On the RPF. I used to paint Han Solo blasters, and I used to think I was very good at it. So I started putting them on the RPF and going, "Ooh, look at my Han Solo blaster!" And people went, "Wow, can I buy one?" And I sold a few. And then I started looking at other pages like studio scale, and then that's when it all changed. And I painted it. I managed to get a resin X-Wing, and I painted it, and I didn't know, and I didn't care, and I didn't even know about reference, and I didn't know what I was painting. I just painted it. I hadn't even painted a model since I was at school. And Lee was one of the first people to go, "No, that's nice." We started chatting, become friends ever since. But yeah, on the RPF, it was about 2007 to 2009, and then the studio scale sort of thing kicked off. And I was one trying to be the person that lifted the curse on Slave One, the fire spray. And and we kind of did it.
The fire spray?
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to call it Slave One now in case you offend people in Tunisia or the Moon, somewhere like that, or Lucasfilm. People who called it Slave One.
I can see how it's offensive.
Yeah, it's massively offensive. Like Black Beauty.
Wasn't the computer on Blake 7 called Slave?
I wasn't allowed to stay up that late.
Were you not?
I'm a lot younger than you.
I don't. Yeah,
no,
I don't know.
That's a joke.
I don't know. How you look it.
No.
Look it.
Blake 7 was a 9 o'clockish sort of thing, wasn't it?
You're looking very dapper actually with the shirt.
It's my. I stole it off a bloke outside before when we pulled up. Yeah, it's nice.
Well, they're very smartly dressed in stuff.
I say it was a bloke. It wasn't. It was a woman. She didn't want it anymore. I could tell by the way she was laughing at me on the floor.
You're very brave then, because the women in Stockport are more trouble than the men.
They used him in Alien 3. In the scene when the aliens been going to give him birth.
What, the shirts?
No, the women from Stockport.
Oh, right, okay.
They're all hanging up in the background in Alien 3. Women from Stockport with lice on them.
Yeah, lice.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never been to Stockport. It's really mean of me to say that.
I don't think anyone's going to be complaining.
No.
So, before, obviously you were alive before you got an interest and a passion in studio scale models. I believe you had something to do with the music biz.
Yeah. I was just a silly little boy from Warrington most of my life, and I stayed that way. But I found a little niche called the music industry, which is some people have heard of. And I managed to work my way into the music industry, into my chosen career, which at 12 years old, I thought, what do you want to do? Sick of seeing misery in adults. By that, I don't mean tea was naff or didn't want to garden, but just doing jobs they didn't want to do for the rest of their life, specifically talking about my dad. And at 12, quite a lot of things happened to me which affected me, and then I just sort of went, if you're here, do the thing you want to do. And I told the school in no certain terms, this is what I want to do. And they went, we don't understand you. You need to be a plumber. So I went, bye. And I just pursued it. I used to spend all the money I had, which was zero, getting buses to Altrincham to walk 5 miles to a farm to sit with Gordon Whittam, who used to be part of Gordy Guitar. Well, he was Gordy Guitars, Gordon Smith Guitars, and pester him. And eventually he ended up teaching, so he used to take me to the college. And
so what, you wanted to be a
guitar tech? No, guitar tech.
Oh,
I wanted to build guitars and but I didn't want to build guitars to be a guitar builder, or luthier as it's called. I wanted to build guitars so I had the knowledge to fix guitars on the road touring with bands. My best mate, Andy, was always in bands from being 14 years old. And through that, I realised there is a professional, we'd just go and support Vow Wow or someone like that, and they'd have a guitar tech, and I'd just be watching the guitar tech thinking, he gets paid to do that. And then some of them would tell me how much money they earn. I'd be like, Jesus Christ, I should definitely be doing that, because it sounds like they get paid well as well. And they'd heard stories, and I think at 18, Andy's a band, mate's band, supported a band called It Bites, which was just an eye-opener. It Bites are one of the best British bands ever. And that was it then. This is my goal. This is my destiny. And it took a long time. But when I entered the industry and I did get work, when guitarists, because most guitarists are absolutely stupid, when they did throw the guitar for you to catch it and you move out the way because you don't want to lose your jaw or lose an eye, and it hits the wall, you can fix it because you've got the skills. So I thought, if I've got all them skills, and it did work out well. A classic example, zoom a few years in the future, I would work with a band called Razorlight for many years, hence I'm not dark haired anymore. We supported a band called Muse, which are quite popular 3-piece Britpop band, and Matt Bellamy, the singer of Muse, who had a friend of mine called Grufter, who's a guitar tech, and he wasn't a guitar tech like I was, in the sense of I could build them. He was a guitar tech in the sense that he maintained as best as he could, but a lovely bloke and extremely good at his job, stage manager. Matt Bellamy smashed his favourite guitar in front of him, and doesn't care, doesn't talk about it, doesn't even acknowledge the fact that his favourite guitar's smashed. He just expects it to be there the next day. So Grufter came to see me and said, look, can this be? It was like, it can, but we need this, 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 and this, and we can do it overnight. I'll help you. So we stayed up all night in a hotel, got various glues which we needed, hair dryers, everything we needed, plastic bags. Had to specifically be a quick save bag. I wound him up for an hour and a half. If it's not a quick save bag, it won't work. And he's like, there's no quick save. There's no quick save. And it's like, we've got to have some fun. And I fixed the broken neck on this guitar. And the next day, they went on and did their show. We were supporting them. I finished. And at the end of the show, I came up to Grufter and said, what did he say? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, what did Matt say? When you shown him the fixed guitar that you didn't sleep for last night and we didn't go to bed, what did he say? I said, well, I haven't told him. So why haven't you told him? We don't really do that kind of thing. I was saying, no, you're wrong. I do. And I literally marched across the stage, grabbed Matt Bellamy, pulled him back to Grufter and said, what do you say? He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you say? The man stayed up all night to fix your guitar so that you could have your favourite Manson guitar on stage here tonight. He didn't sleep. I didn't sleep. And you haven't even acknowledged him. Well, I didn't know. You did know because you threw it. And I started. But this never left me. There isn't a punchline to the story. It's the fact that even though I was in that industry, I wasn't suffering fools. I won't suffer fools in this industry either. But it's like, there's a lot of dickheads in the music industry. The point I'm getting to is, after 30 years, I'd had enough of it. So Archive X came at a perfect time because lockdown happened, which for most people was a nightmare. For me, it was almost a get out of jail free card because there was no touring, there was no gigs, there was no musicians having strops or melting down or throwing things at you or crying or going missing.
And that was lockdown was the final.
Yeah, I've not done a gig since 2019.
Excuse.
Yeah,
because I think you were talking about it a lot. You were saying, I'm going to do the Slave one. I can't call it anything else. I'm sorry. I'm going to do the Slave one project, and we'd make some bits and pieces for you, and then you go away, and we were like a few months down the road. Oh, how are you going on? Oh, I'm back out on the road. I'm back. Yeah, and it was you were constantly back out.
Well, yeah, but that was pre-lockdown, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the lockdown, that was the moment where you were like, oh, that's it.
I think having a child was the first moment. Razorlight ending, and I picked up a band from Manchester called Everything Everything, which I loved them. I was out with them a few nights ago, about a week ago in Shrewsbury. I loved them to bits. They're one of my favourite bands. A phenomenal British band. Not had the most luck when it comes to record companies and things, but they're just super, super lads, and I put my heart and soul into them. But being at home more and being a tour manager, I decided that I cut a thick skin was something I didn't want anymore, and I've had to have a lot of thick skins. I went through the music industry getting banned from places like Jules Holland because I couldn't tolerate the idiots that were coming in to perform on it. I always had to take the piss out of people. And some people who are famous don't like having the piss taken out of them, and they react.
So you got banned from Jules Holland?
For putting a laser light on Paul McCartney's head during a live performance on Jules Holland. He was playing with Dave Gilmour and Ian Pace, the drummer, and somebody else. It was like an all-star band. I was working with a female artist called Shola Rama, and her drummer I'd never seen one, he had a Zildian drumstick with a laser light in it. So I thought, well, that's an opportunity. And whilst we were live on television, I sort of got on the drum riser, positioned myself between his pedals with this thing, and then when the cameras moved and the floor manager moved, there was this opening, and I just went zoom, boom, and the laser light slap bang in the middle of Paul McCartney's forehead. At which point, obviously, the people in the booth are thinking, shit, he's going to get shot. Everyone thinks, I'm surprised no one jumped on him to the ground. But the next thing, it didn't last for long. The next thing, I just felt my hands on my ankles, and I just got a big yank from behind and pulled me. And it was a get out. Just not that, like, stop that, you're a naughty boy. It was get out. And it was about 6 months, I think, before I was allowed back in. And the day I came back in, I changed the cue cards on Jeff Beck. I thought, you shouldn't have let me in. Don't want to be here. Don't want to be here. Yeah. So, yeah, I used to cause a lot of trouble.
So do you have some fun times then?
Yeah. I mean, I've done some crazy... I mean, trying to remember some of the crazy things. There's that many crazy things. Mostly due to alcohol abuse, I've caused lots of trouble. But I've done some pretty important things as well, like managed to learn how to use a train, got to London on my own, things like that.
Yeah,
like
I bumped
proper
into
grown up.
I bumped into you in London one time.
Where?
Just at Euston Station.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'll spin off my head.
Yeah.
Were you sure you weren't a pasty? I don't think I remember from Euston is pasties for £7.
Yeah, no, you just stood outside having a smoke.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I used to spend a lot of time. I nearly got arrested for being unhappy in London outside King's Cross because I'd spent a week at a place called John Henry's, which is where a lot of big bands go. If you ever want to meet a famous person, go to John Henry's, hang around outside. You will meet someone famous that day, guaranteed every day. It's where bands go to rehearse and store their equipment. I'd spent a week on my own in a room with no natural sunlight waiting for Razorlight to turn up, and no one turned up. I just got a call every morning, they're coming now. So you sit there waiting for them to arrive, and they didn't arrive. Probably by the fifth
Would
day.
that happen a lot?
Yeah, every single time we worked with them, they didn't turn up.
It was just Razorlight.
Oh, it was mostly Razorlight. Most people valued the cost in doing something like setting up their equipment and rehearsing, and they want to rehearse and sound good. They just wanted to not turn up till Johnny turned up, because if Johnny didn't turn up, there's no point in turning up. So it was like a stalemate. Until he arrives, no one will arrive, and he isn't going to arrive anyway. He'll probably not even in the same country. No one cares. He just lies. So I was in there for about 5 days, and I just thought, fuck this, I'm going home. I'm just not spending any more time here. But then I had the conflict on being paid to do a job, and I should be there, but it's also soul destroying. It was a bit, it sounds terrible. It's the closest I've ever been to what these people have just experienced at the Titanic. I was stuck in a small space with no natural sunlight, claustrophobic for a week. But the better thing, I was getting paid. They've paid to do that. But it's like, I went mad. I literally kind of went a bit stir crazy. And I remember leaving, and I was outside King's Cross Station. It was a beautiful sunny day. I hadn't really seen much sunlight because I just had to sit there and wait for it. And I wasn't aware that I was doing anything unusual or strange. And the next thing, there's 4 or 5 police around me, and they're like, "You're all right, sir?" "Yeah." "What are you doing? Why are you here?" I'm like, "Just work." "Well, what are you doing?" "Are you sure you're okay? Can we have a look in your bag?" And I'm like, so I've had this moment of like, what the fuck's going on? What are you doing? So you're acting very strange. I went, "Oh, have I been pacing?" They're like, "Yeah." He said, "You just keep pacing, putting your head on the glass, staring into W.H. Smith, spinning round." And I've just been doing the same thing because I'm trying to work out, do I go home or do I go back? Do I go home? Do I go back? I don't want to go back. And they thought I was like, I don't know, completely mental. And I said, "I can explain it. I work for Razorlight." And they all went, "Oh, that's fine. Let me alone." Because they must have known. It's like, you can't survive that. It's a sociopath.
So what bands did you tour with?
I've toured with
Razorlight, obviously.
Razorlight, Marillion, Feeder, Green Day, Bare Naked Ladies. I worked for Dinah Ross's stepdaughter, a wonderful woman called Leona Ness. Worked for her for about 4 years in my early days. Phenomenal English band that no one's ever heard of called Bullyrag, which never quite made it. Who else have I done? Beverly Knight, Sholarama, Fonda Shepherd, Boy Hits Car, Ryan Adams.
I love Brian Adams.
Not Brian, Ryan.
Pardon?
Not Brian, Ryan.
Oh, all right, okay.
Ryan Adams is a cross between sort of a human and somebody who shouldn't really be alive. He's a bit of a waster. He's fucking rubbish. But he was very popular for about a week. I can't think. I don't know. Derailers was a band I did once. No one's ever heard of. They were amazing. Incredible sort of like country folk weird thing. But I was with Razorlight for 10 years. Feeder on and off for 10 years. C6 Steve. I was the first guitar tech for C6 Steve. because C6 Steve wasn't a thing until he did Jules Holland, but he didn't. It was not designed that he does Jules Holland. It was complete chance, because somebody had one of his tapes that he did for his wife, which was played over a pirate blues radio station in London, and he'd recorded it, and he got to know Steve over the internet, if there was an internet at the time. I can't remember what year it was, but anyway, he sort of knew Steve, and he had this tape, and he was driving a band to Jules Holland, and he was playing the tape in the van, and he thought, sod it, I'll take the tape in and give it to the director. So he gave it to, I can't remember the woman's name, the director of Jules Holland. He gave it to her. She actually listened to it, went, oh my God, we've got to get him on. And the next thing, C6 Steve's on Jules Holland, and he was never really a signed art. He wasn't. It was just weird. It just sort of happened. So he kind of made up all this stuff, and he actually told them he was 10 years older than he was. So from that day on, because he became a thing, he had to lie about his age. Whereas most people say you're younger, he actually said he was older to fit in with his peers. He never thought anything was going. He wasn't going to get a record deal. He just came because somebody paid for it, and he played on telly in England. And then the next thing, he had a record deal, and the lies snowballed, and the insanity snowballed. But it was lovely at first, and then I was with him for a short while, and then I used to dib in and out of C6 Steve, not literally physically, but dibbing out of his career whenever he was stuck. And then more recently, I was winding down everything after 7 years, and Steve desperately needed some help because he'd sacked everybody again, and I stepped in, and then so I sort of ended with C6 Steve and Feeder at the end of my career, which isn't a bad thing because Feeder are lovely guys. They've took me to some lovely countries, and I wouldn't have sweat because of Feeder. I've swam with great white sharks. I've nearly died 3 or 4 times through alcohol abuse.
Was that intentional, the swimming with sharks?
Yeah, it was. We jumped in a cage and we were allowed legally to do it. We went into the water. Actually, no, that wasn't Feeder. That was everything. Feeder backed out of it 3 times in 3 trips. So I never swam with sharks with Feeder because everybody bottled it. And the people who take you to these things as a gift, because you're over there and you're famous, wouldn't do it without the singer, and the singer bottled it. So they're not going to take me on my own.
There's probably some irony about going swimming with sharks with a band called Feeder.
Yeah, maybe it was a good thing we didn't go with Feeder.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah, but it was So I was lucky. I've been to some. I've worked in Uganda. I've worked in mad places. I've been arrested in 4 countries for things I haven't done, but just insanity. Russia, Venezuela, Chile, Argentina.
That's where you were arrested?
I was arrested. We were all arrested in Argentina, yeah. I mean, very quickly, I was arrested in Austria once for stealing a wig in an airport. 2 of us, me and the guy at a bully rag. When you go into a restaurant and there's a table outside just showing what the tables look like, well, there's 2 mannequins that had lovely wigs. Both ladies, very ahead of the time.
Yeah.
One had a beehive and the other had this long blonde lock. So I took the beehive and Dave took the locks, and we checked in, did the whole airport with these wigs on. And we came to the gate. Oh, this is the same day. Not only did they get arrested, but they got accused of trying to blow the plane up as well. Because this is before. So this is when you could take a dinosaur on a plane and no one would bat an eyelid. Is it dangerous? No, it's fine.
A dinosaur?
Yeah, safety wasn't as big.
All right, okay.
It was before all that kind of stuff started. I used to take my toolbox with razor blades, and scalpels and knives and chisels. And they go, yeah, that's fine.
Just as a carry-on?
Yeah, as a carry-on. So we got arrested because we got to the gate and we were going to board the plane with the wigs. But I knew technically we hadn't stolen them because we were still in the airport. So I wasn't worried that we were properly being arrested. But we did get escorted back through the airport with the wigs on by the police and put in a room where we had to fill in blank pieces of paper. I thought, this is going nowhere. No official document is a blank piece of paper. It's A4 out. They just pulled it out of the printer. They asked us about our parents, what we were doing there. They were trying to make the plane late so we would be hated. And they achieved that because they held us there for 4 hours and the plane stayed on the runway for 4 hours with everybody on it.
Really?
So when we got back to the runway, back to the plane, it was just me and Dave, our tails between our legs, thinking, oh, God, this is going to be the worst war.
You didn't get on like all rock and roll?
No, you can't. You just can't. That's just, you'd get killed. I sit on planes. I used to sit on planes nearly every week, and if somebody causes you a 4-hour delay, you literally want to kill them, not smile at the jokes. But I put my scanner through, put my toolbox through, and the woman just opened my toolbox and ran off. And we're stood there going, why she ran off? We're
Is
4
this
hours
after the police had just brought you
after
back?
we'd been arrested, because we had to go with all our stuff. I put my toolbox through. I had a little, like a satchel and a toolbox. I put the toolbox through. She'd opened it, gone through the scanner, obviously flagged something. She'd opened it, but she just ran off. She didn't say anything, didn't do anything. She just ran off. And then about 6 police came with a British Airways. It wasn't British Airways. It was, come on, what airline it was. Came with British Airways staff to translate, and started trying to drag us off again. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And my Boss TU-12 guitar tuner was left on in my toolbox, and the battery light was blinking. So she'd opened the toolbox and seen blink, 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 blink. I thought it was a fucking bomb, and then got me arrested again. But very quickly I showed them it was just a PP3 issue, not a murder situation, and they let us on. And then we did the walk of shame. But yes, that was one arrest. So I can wamble about the music industry. Gigs are crap. The bits you do in between gigs are amazing in the music industry. Very privileged, some of the things we've done. But most of the gigs are crap, because they just involve musicians who are talking out their arse.
Have you got another one?
I'm not doing the one we discussed before we started talking, because that would be ethically wrong. The C60.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not doing that one.
Okay.
Should I? Does he deserve it?
No, you're probably best not doing that one.
No, let's not do that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more concerned for us in this situation than you telling the story.
Yeah, because you can't laugh. that's just giving it away now, isn't it? Well, another rock and roll story. Oh, Jesus, there's too many. I can't remember. Because they all sound like brags. If you're not in the industry, it sounds like a brag. If you say I was,
But brag. But
well, I don't need to brag, because I don't have any real sort of association to the people. You're more friends with the people that do your job than you are the people you're working for. A band like everything's different, because heart and soul, I love them all. I think I've got a story. Oh, Raise Like Children in Need. This is a good one. This is definitely a good story. This summarises. Don't get me wrong, I loved Razorlight. I was with them for 10 years. I was the longest serving member of crew for Razorlight. And it meant something to me, but it didn't clearly mean that much to them. But this is after the second album, so they're kind of the biggest they've ever been. We've sold about 3.5 million records on the second album. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot.
This is after the second album.
After the second album, so we're headlining Reading.
So what were the singles? What time?
This is America.
All right, so it's after America.
Well, it's that album, that period,
right? Okay.
From that album. So like the biggest hit
when they'd really ballooned.
Yeah, when it really ballooned, which is America, which wasn't written by Johnny. It was written by Andy, the drummer. But it was never allowed to have the correct recognition for that, because Johnny's basically a sociopath and controls everything. So we've got a dilemma. We're doing a gig in, I can't remember if it's Plymouth or Portsmouth, probably Plymouth, whichever one's closest.
One of the mouths.
Whichever one's closest to London. We were doing a gig, and it's a headline show, a couple of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. But they're also doing Children in Need that night. So we've got to get them off stage and back to London on the telly, right? You would think that's probably quite easy with logistics, but we're dealing with somebody who doesn't like things to go well. He wants to punish people on a daily basis. So it starts off with the gig in, let's just call it Plymouth, I'm probably wrong, where he decides, we've all set up, bear in mind there's maybe 25 to 30 people employed by the band to do these gigs. They're quite big gigs. It's not just like me and a couple of people. There's trucks, buses involved, a lot of people. And everything gets set up, and we get a phone call, don't do any more. The gig's not happening. We're like, what? We've fucking done everything already. It's like, what? Again. He's not coming. He's not going to come. He's not getting enough attention. He's not going to come. He's not going to come. At which point, all the sort of management side of stuff, I thought, oh, we don't care anymore. So they went, all right, don't come. We'll just start taking everything down. What? You mean you're not reacting? Oh, right, okay. I'll be there in a bit. I'll come on my motorbike. Didn't get a reaction. So he rides his motorbike to the gig, right, which is fine. But we've got to get him to London after the gig, straight after the gig. So all the band are all set. Everything's set. You're going on the bus. You're going on the bus. Makeup on the bus. Her on the bus. Fluffer, massage. We even had a guy, a lovely guy called Ansgar Scan.
You had a fluffer?
Yeah, well, yeah, not a fluffer. I meant that was a different job.
All right.
We had a masseuse, which we've met at a festival, which they employed basically because he was so good. He fixed it's sort of thing that could fix your brain while you're having a cup of coffee, just from massaging your finger or something. He was good, and so even he was there. So everyone's lined up so they can have this luxurious trip on the tour bus back to the BBC, nice and relaxed. Everything's relaxed, everything's normal, everything's nice. Never quite works like that with Razorlight. So it comes to the end of the gig. The tour manager's already sweating blood and crying because he knows it's going to go wrong, and everything seems to be happening. The band are all ushered off the stage. Everybody gets on the bus. The bus leaves, and then someone goes, "What's happening with Johnny's motorbike?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, Johnny's motorbike's here. Can anybody ride a motorbike?" Phil, lovely, one of my best mates, puts his hands up. So yeah, I'll do it. So they got Johnny's leathers, and bear in mind, Johnny's like a tampon. Phil's quite, So yeah, we have to grease him up with things from catering, like butter and olive oil, to get the leathers on. He's in his underpants on the stage. We're all pissing ourselves. And he's trying to work into these leathers. He manages to get in the leathers, get him onto the motorbike. The motorbike, which was a massive Motor Guzzi. Is it a Motor Guzzi? Is that a bike? Yeah, it's a motorbike, Motor Guzzi. Huge thing, 1100cc Motor Guzzi with a buckled wheel and no fuel in it. So he's literally does about 20 feet and then zoom, it stops. So he's then got to push the bike in these leathers like C-3PO down the road to the fuel station. Manages to get fuel, manages to catch up the bus. Bearing in mind, this is for children in need. The biggest charity event of the year in British television. So they managed to do it in time. So they get to the BBC. We're all packing away the equipment, ready to go to the next town the next day, wherever it was. And we start getting calls. I've got another guitar tech lined up at the BBC who all he's got to do is take an acoustic guitar out of a bag, give it to Johnny, and he's miming, singing live, but miming. So all the bands are mime, but with live vocals. So no one has to tune anything. He's just going to literally be there to set the drums up, make it look like a band's setup, very basic stuff. So they get to the BBC, all the staff are waiting there. It's getting really close to the slot that they're doing. So they're all, everyone's charging down the corridors, everyone's rushing around. There's all like women's hairs flying around, and the fluffers and everybody, the makeup, and trying to get massages while they're going through the corridors of the BBC. All very special, make them feel special. So they get them out they're in front of the audience now, and there's Terry Wogan sat there in his chair. And Razorlight go on the stage, and the floor manager goes, "Right, we're going to do two tunes. It's Lessons in Love." No, that was level 42. I can't remember. Somewhere in Love, and probably America. I don't know what it was. And they go, "Right, okay, we're going to rehearse the first one. We've got 6 minutes, so it's like 2 minutes of rehearsal, quick camera check, 2 minutes of rehearsal, the second song, then we're live." Right, okay. Johnny just goes, "I'm not doing it," and it's like, "What? I'm not doing it." What do you mean not doing it? You're here. We've just gone to this huge expense, and you're here. I'm not doing it. Why aren't you doing it? I haven't got a capo. Anybody who knows what a capo is, it's a thing you put on the end of a guitar to change the chord or the key. So you bar it across the fret. It's a spring clamps a bit of rubber over the strings, and you change the key. He's miming. But because I hadn't put a capo in his guitar case with the acoustic, he was now trying to blame me for them not doing Children Need indirectly. "I haven't got a capo, so I can't do it." And it's pointed out to him, "You're miming." Even the BBC floor manager's like, "You're miming. You don't need to physically play the guitar. It's a mime. I can't do it without a capo. It won't be right. Can't." So this argument ensues for 2 minutes. So then they're thinking, "What the fuck are we going to do? What are we going to do?" So they said, "Okay, let's just do the second song then." And then Johnny realises, I haven't got a get out of jail free card for the second song because there's no guitar involved. It's just him singing, and everybody else is playing their own instruments. So basically there's like a minute left to go before they're live on television on Children in Need. And he walks off, just walks off. Bear in mind they were doing 2 songs at about 3 minutes and 40 seconds left. 3 minutes and 40 seconds each, which has left nearly a 7-minute window with nothing for the BBC during Children in Need.
So they didn't do it?
He's walked off. So due to the excellence and experience of someone like Terry Wogan, he manages to start pulling it back a bit and waffling, and somebody in the director's booth trying to find a video about fucking socks to put anything on to fill this 7-minute gap. And the band are all like, what the fuck? Johnny just fucking storms off. Goes through the doors, never doesn't get seen again until the tour manager, Kumar, goes to the BBC, who are in an absolute uproar. How dare he do that? What the fuck? You can't just do that. So they agreed with Fern Cotton is the young one. Fern Britton's the old one, isn't it? So Fern Cotton was there. She agreed to take the cameras down to the dressing room to film them in the dressing room and ask him why they didn't do it live on television to fill the gap of them doing it. So they did. They didn't tell the band. They took the cameras down into the dressing room, knocked on the door, opened the door with the cameras, and by this point everyone was like, fuck you, you deserve whatever you get. So Johnny, we're here, it's Children in Need. Razorlight had been booked to play. Bear in mind he'd cancelled like 3 Top of the Pops before now and got thrown off things. He always used to cancel stuff. So, the band all stood there like, fucking shit, the cameras are on us. So why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? And you could see sort of like, but all the time this is going on, we're getting relayed everything by phone. So we're all on the stage going, this is fucking amazing. This is brilliant. All pissing ourselves. So why didn't you do it, Johnny? Just Shake That have done it. This band have done it. Everyone's done it. Everyone's turned up. You're here, but you haven't done it. What's going on? My voice has gone. And the rest of the band are all looking at him like, you lying twat. My voice is gone, my voice is gone. Oh, I just can't sing, I'm so sorry, I can't sing. He lays on all the charm and everything. So, okay, fair enough. If you can't sing, you can't sing. So what have you done for Children in Need? At which point, there's a blank. That's the penny drop moment. This isn't about us. This is about children in need. Bearing in mind that Take That had just done a Marks and Spencer's advert. And they got paid $250,000 for doing their Marks and Spencer's advert, at which point they donated that $250,000 to Children in Need and performed that night. Comes to Razorlight. So what have you done for Children in Need? And she gets met by complete silence. And to break the silence and to try and make it better, Björn, the Swedish guitar player, thinks, I'll solve this. Oh, we have got a lovely cheesecake on the bus. It is half eaten, but they can have that. He donated half a fucking cheesecake to Children in Need live on television. It just doesn't get more wrong. You get half a cheesecake to Children in Need live on television. After Take That, I've just done $250,000. Like,
Did they give them? Did they take it?
No, they probably wasn't even half a cheesecake. It probably had been eaten by one of them earlier on. He hadn't realised. But the fact that he donated half a cheesecake to Children in Need after them cancelling the show,
that is
and it was like years later. I was in Glasgow at a radio thing with Paul Draper from Manson, I think it was, and that was the archives for the BBC video content with the building I was in. And I was talking to the woman in there, and she was like, "We will have that because I can't find it. I can't find it anywhere. I can't find it on YouTube. Can't find it anywhere. That because we never saw it. We just heard about it." And she promised me one day. I'll have to try and get in touch with her again. She promised one day she will dig out the videotape of Children in Need that night and make sure we get copies of it. But yeah, it's just that world that people are in. It's like, it's all about them, but then they realise it's not really all about them at all. Like they headlined Reading and it was too soon. They were not experienced enough. They didn't have the wisdom to pull it off professionally. And there was a lot of fear before they went on. But we walked down into the audience in the afternoon because we have all day to hang around. And the Razorlight album covers on big billboards along either side of the stage. And the graffiti that people have written about the headline band at Reading Festival was shocking. It even shocked me. The amount of abuse that people were writing about Johnny Burrell.
Can you remember any of it?
No, I couldn't. I think I have got photographs of it somewhere. But it's all basically slandering, like calling them things you shouldn't say on the radio. I know we're not on the radio, but things you shouldn't say. Not very nice, but funny for us to read. But actually, it's like there was this moment where, normally, we'll say we've all done Glastonbury, but we haven't. Obviously, I've done Glastonbury many times, and it's like it just becomes part of your job to be around that many people. You don't even notice them. I've been in front of 250,000 people and didn't even know they were there because I'm concentrating on doing a job. I'm there to pay to do a job. And I think Gossip had just been on Reading, and I think it was, God, the band that did it every year. Jimmy Eat World were coming out next, and somebody came out on stage to introduce, and next we've got Jimmy Eat World, and then it's blah, blah, blah. And then Razorlight. And for the first time ever in a career, I heard the whole audience go quiet. Instead of cheering for the headline band, it went completely quiet, and then about 10,000 people booed. And I thought, holy shit, we shouldn't be here. This shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening at all. But, you know, that was, they rose to fame so quickly. And it was deserved. They still are a fantastic band. It was deserved, but there was a lot of weird stuff going on. You can't, when somebody's a sociopath anyway, give them an ego on top of that. You just, you know, some of the stuff he's done, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. But at the same time, you're carried on this sort of journey, and, you know, we've hidden from him in hotel rooms. We've done all kinds of stuff. We took a journalist from The Independent the management invited a journalist from The Independent to come to us while we were on tour in Japan. I remember reading the story when we came back, and it shocked me that she even said it. But the main focus on the story was about the crew trying to get away from the band all the time. Even when it comes to the vehicles arriving in to pick us up from the hotel in the morning, she wrote of the fact that we all ran into the first vehicle and filled it quickly so he couldn't get it in with us. You know, because you just don't want to be around someone who's that, because he could be pretty horrible on stage. He's a lovely guy sometimes, but he could be pretty horrible on stage. But yeah, I mean, you know, I could go on forever or all night. But
do you miss it?
No, honestly don't. I did it for long enough. No, I don't miss it.
You got it out of your system.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done some stuff that you can't comprehend, and I was paid to do it. My very first professional day as a guitar tech, I was on the roof of a hotel in Sao Paulo in a swimming pool being paid. That kind of set the standard of what I wanted to go for going forward. It's like, I'm actually being paid. I'm in a swimming pool. I'm in Sao Paulo. That's not a bad job career. You know, that's not a bad choice. But to be honest with you, you know, you don't get to meet people like Jason Eaton, and, you know, when you're into rock and roll, you have to wait until you're in Star Wars to meet people like that, and, you know, Kevin Whitty and all the legends, you know.
Yeah.
So, but no, I don't miss it at all. Don't miss it at all. I miss some of my friends, but not the job, not at all. No. I'm much happier building wiring models with Lee and making paint for people, trying to help them have a better time creating Star Wars pops and models. It's easier.
Less stressful.
Not necessarily. There's been a lot of stress, but it's not customer related stress, it's factory related stress. But, you know, sometimes I've got a stress related issue to deal with when I leave here from being at Element Games. But anyway, that's another story. So
well, it's been good. I think I've liked having a chat, and hopefully people will see a bit more of the guy that we know now, because when I've been talking about you with like the guys at Rogue 16, who I know have got big into the scale models recently, Jason and Chris, and I was saying, ask him about Diana Ross's house, and ask him about this, and ask him about that. So sharing some of that has been
it's fun. Nice. It's nice. I mean, because I just forget. You know, it's all just part of my past. But actually, you know, I've done some quite cool things. I've been very privileged. But it was my own design. I wasn't handed to me.
Still doing cool things.
This is more exciting to me than anything in that job. I was never interested in meeting people. It was real people, my friends that I enjoyed meeting, not the famous side of it. I've never been starstruck ever, and I've been in some pretty bizarre places. Doing that's much more exciting because that's never been done before. Well, it has once by Bill George, you know, and I genuinely mean what me and Lee want to achieve with this is the highest quality. It was, you know, partly driven by the dirge that you see coming out from certain companies, But everything's 3D printed, and there's no care or love or attention. No care, love, or attention put into the build. No care, love, or attention put into the design. No care, love, or attention put into the paint. No care or love put into anything because it's just a cash grab. Because they can. Whereas we want to set the standard of this is what love looks like when you buy it at a price, because there's a certain amount of time involved. But
I'm looking at that and thinking there's a lot of time involved.
Huge amounts of time. We haven't even done it yet. You know, it took us 2 years to get that. You know, so it was, which is in studio scale terms, isn't a lot of time to start from scratch.
It's not.
Search, find all the parts.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not a long time at all. I mean, some models never get ID. There's still bits on Slave One that we don't know what they are, but it will be worth it. That's the difference. It will be worth it. You know, and we you know, when they put it on the shelves, like you've got a room here with all your lovely things in it. If you go into a room,
our little basement,
yeah,
the dungeon.
We haven't even touched on
the dungeon.
We haven't even touched on this little fella here, have we? No. But it's
the company piece.
Yeah, it's same with an RS prop. If you've got a load of Dom Post, blah blah blah, rubies, what's that, Hasbro Black Series, and then you got an RS bust. You're just going to stand out. It's going to be the cream of the crop. Even to a layman, it's going to be the cream of the crop. We want these to be, when people have got their collections out, even if they've got stuff they've scratch built themselves and that, it's just going to be the standout piece of like, holy shit, that is nice. That is crisp. It's as crisp as the one that was built for the film. It's perfect. You know? That's what that's all we want to get from it is pride in our own work. And pride that the customer who's bought it will actually get something they deserve for a change. And it doesn't exist in our side of what we do. In your side it does because you're RS. But in our side, to this day, it doesn't exist.
It's hard work.
Yeah. But look, it's not just the hard work. It's the love and the passion. Without the love and the passion, the hard work doesn't mean anything because you can work hard and achieve nothing. But with love and passion and hard work, you can achieve great things.
True. And research.
Yeah, and research. You know, it's not one bit of that was handed to us. We had help, but it wasn't handed to us. It's our work. You know, and we've done our best to protect it. You know, once we're done with it, I don't care if 50,000 companies do it. We've done our thing. We've done what we wanted with it. We've given. But no one can ever give the replica we give. They might produce a Y-Wing or a Bill George Y-Wing, but it'll never be the replica that we do. Because people like us and like you don't exist. I was saying to Lee on the way here, you've noticed when a company loves what they do, they talk about it, and you see them talking about it. When a company likes to make money out of people that've got too much money, you never see any faces. You never see any conversation as such, really. You know, like, I'm not going to name names because I don't want it to be a us versus them thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of companies that do this at the moment because of 3D printing and CAD that you're never going to see them. You're never going to see them proudly talking about what they do because you can't. The standard's not there. We want to be that mould broken for this, honestly. It's the most important thing to us. And the next thing we do, which we've already got planned, is going to be exactly the same as this, but a very different thing. It's going to be a little beauty no one's ever done before, and we're going to be very proud of it, and people who own it will be very proud of it.
You've got to give us a little bit more. Is it a model?
Show you in a bit. It's Star Wars. It's Return of the Jedi. It's fantastic. You know, like the Boosh maquette you got from Lee.
Yeah.
You when you saw it, you knew you wanted it.
Yeah.
We're doing something like that. When people see it, they're going to want it.
I already want it.
Yeah, you will want it. You will want it.
If it's coming from you two guys,
Can you pass that over? Sorry.
then I know I'm going to want
You
it.
will. And it's one that probably most people would overlook anyway. So very, very quickly before
Yeah, let's have a
we have to...
quick little rundown, a quick
so
little
this
tease of this. How have you found painting? Is this the first prop?
This is the first full helmet I've ever painted. Okay, and it's certainly the first Y-wing paint I've ever done. This was, let me explain, because because I have a working relationship with RS and very often help them with paint and supply them with paint and stuff and maybe a bit of R&D here and then stuff. I was very kindly given the shell.
We scratch each other's back, don't we?
Yeah, but which is fair enough. This is,
Metaphorically.
it's not nepotism. It's not anything. It's like I was allowed to have this shell and some bits, but I was, and rightly so, held back from doing anything with it because the customers come first, which is absolutely right. Once the customers had been and done, and you got over all the issues with the fire, and you were up and running and everything, and I had some free time, I thought maybe I should start having a look at this Y-wing helmet because I love ILM paintwork. That's why I have a ILM paint company. And this for me, I remember telling you at the time, this is the best, for my personal taste, looking Y-wing helmet. The paintwork, the markings, everything about it, for me, is the one.
It's definitely a sexy beast.
It is a sexy beast. And
I think we were talking earlier, weren't we? And we were talking, we did the run of this one because it was...
in the film.
Well, it was... Because it was in the movie.
Yeah, and it's the most iconic of all of them, as in people know it.
And I'm really drawn to the sticker. I love the sticker.
Yeah.
I love the in-joke.
And it's a beautiful helmet. You have to choose somewhere. But because I'm not in a position where I have to choose for anybody but myself, this is, for me, if I had to own one Y-wing helmet, that's the one I thought I would own. So I thought, well, I can't, so I'll have to do it myself. And it was a learning curve.
So you're nearly finished on this, though. I know it's a work in progress, but it's very close now. Very close.
There's a few little things. We still need to work out this bit here. The screws need to be adjusted. There'll be a new visor with help from yourselves. Paintwork-wise, there's
I love the Ferrari engine block.
Yeah, it's nice. I can't remember the guy's name. You know the guy's name.
Frank.
Frank very kindly sent me the parts. I've never dealt with him. I have, possibly. But, and I told him, I need him for, I thought it was coming last Thursday. And he just went way above and beyond, got them out to me that night, made them and sent them to me and had them on the Monday morning. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much.
We've been doing a lot of to-in and fro-in when we were trying to find the, sorry, it's not even this part. It's not on this bit. It's on the suit, the little clip.
Yeah.
That's on the Bausch helmet and stuff.
Right. Have you found that?
Physically got one, not yet.
Okay.
We know what it is.
Right, okay.
Down to the part number and everything, but you still can't get hold of one.
Can't get hold of one. But you know what
it's that elusive. But yeah, that was a lot of conversations with Frank.
Right, okay. That's interesting. But yeah, so this, and I just thought, I hated it. I hated doing it. Hated every bit of it. And then I started loving it. And then I started hating it. And then I did it again and I started loving it. And then I learned, well, you can't be the best at what you do the first time you do it. You've got to do it to get the experience. And I started thinking, I remember saying to you, I'm just going to get rid of it all, start again, then do it again, because I know what my own standard is. I can what I can achieve, where I could do it, where it faster, where I could clean it up, where I could do it. But at the end of the day, I started looking at it and thinking, no, actually, it's quite nice, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It is a lovely... I've captured it, I think, really, really well.
Oh, for sure.
I've captured it really well. There's a few things I would change, and which made me start thinking, well, wouldn't it be nice?
I like all the little details where you can see where the masking tape was still on, and there's overspray on.
Every
and then they've removed it afterwards, and you can see
every one of these is a different size to the next one. But getting them all to look right, but wrong at the same time. It's actually, I've got to say, having finished
that's the fun.
It's another one of those experiences where my admiration for people like Becky and John before, who do this day in, day out, just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, because there's an art to doing stuff like this and making it look like an ILM helmet. That is an art.
Yeah.
And I'd never done one before, so I had to learn.
For sure. Very, very graphical design on this one, isn't it?
Yeah, again, it's for me, that's just fudging, but with some finesse, it's very achievable.
Look how they painted them, though, so they look like they were 20 years old.
Yeah. But like you were saying earlier on about the thinness of the paint,
Yeah.
you can see it's thin on this helmet. You can see where it isn't thin. And that's, again, that leads into colour research. Like I was saying to Becky before, when I first started looking at trying to plan in my head what I was going to do, I was looking at the orange and the red. And I always saw this darker streak at the side as being that orange with that red over the top of it. And then looked at the sanding, the way it was sanded. And thought,
down here?
Yeah, so this darker colour, not
Same
the dark.
as this?
I thought it was this colour with this colour over the top of it originally.
Okay.
This orange, I know isn't the right orange, but I believe I do know the right orange. It's just I did it too strong, took it off and tried this orange. So I was going to try them both, then choose the right one. But because I was so sick and tired of masking it again, that I actually thought, well, it looks quite good, I'll just keep that one. But doing it again, I would use the daylight orange. But you could see where it's sanded, and I thought if it was sanded, you would see the bright difference between the red and the orange, and I couldn't see it. And I literally just turned to the Archive X palette, as I normally do first, and thought, actually, that looks like rust. And the more I look at it, the more I think, actually, it just looks like rust. And rust is the colour I used, and it looks like orange with red over it. It's got that kind of feel. I don't know why I call it the sausage feel. I don't know why. It's got that sausage feel to it, and it's, yeah. So it worked. I've never said
Colour of the sausage.
the colour of the sausage. Yeah, it's like a nice sausage.
An actual sausage.
Yeah,
not
like a nice cooked
like
sausage.
a Frankfurt sausage.
Yeah, proper German sausage.
Yeah.
It's
German sausage.
I know. I've like that. Your
making
ice
me
cream van
hungry.
sells hot dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Not your personal ice cream van, but the one that comes here.
Yeah.
You
He does,
don't
yeah.
sell them in yours. But
dogs.
it's
Did you get a hot dog from the ice cream man?
no, I got an ice cream covered in chocolate. It's absolutely lovely. It was really nice. It was a bit of a moment. But yeah, I mean, I would never say these are the colours they use. I could never say that. There's no, unless you have it written down in a document by them, no one can ever say that. But using the vintage Floquil colours and using my eye, I kind of picked out the ones that looked best, and it works.
Yeah.
It
It's looking
works.
good. Looking very, very good. I'm sure people who are listening to this obviously can't see it, but if you tune into
Oh, I forget about
YouTube,
that.
there is you will be able to see it, and there are images over Archive X's Facebook,
There's a few on the
which they
Facebook.
probably should go and check that out anyway if they haven't already.
Yeah, I don't tend to update. I don't like pushing. I'm not a salesman. I like selling what I can do, but I'm not selling like selling
Yeah,
products.
that's what our mail shot's like.
Yeah, I
Sporadic,
yeah. I don't like
minimal.
Yeah, I'm not a self seller, but you know, I think the scope for these.
Yeah, potentially we're talking about something, aren't we?
Yeah,
So-
I think there's room for a potential collaboration somewhere along.
See,
the lines.
we're just chit chatting now,
Yeah,
and I'm hoping that
chit chatting.
the email's not going to go into meltdown now
No.
with people emailing. Clark is nodding his head, and now he's shaking his head. It's like no,
But he can do that because it's a free world.
but
So
this is yeah.
yeah, I would
At
like
this
to
stage,
suggest.
you painted an amazing helmet.
Yeah, I like the love I can put into, and the beauty is also the time, which I've got more time. Mm-hmm. You know, and I sort of felt that wouldn't it be lovely if I had all 4 Y-wing helmets, and then we could see what all 4 Y-wing helmets kind of look like.
Is there only 4?
Well, 4. Well, there's 5, but you already have that one. That one's already existing. So 4 that don't exist currently in a lineage form might look spectacular.
It'd be interesting. We should see what that looks like.
We should see what that looks like, and maybe think about how long it takes, and
Yeah, a full set rather than just these 2. Thanks for coming in.
Yes, it's been a pleasure.
It's always good to catch up with you anyway. Although it looks like I've been upset most of the chat, it's just because of my hay fever.
But they can't see that because it's on the radio.
Well, that's true. So good. Hopefully they've not seen me crying all night.
Yeah,
But we're getting to the end of June, and then it just kind of goes as quick as it came.
yeah,
So that's good. But again, thanks for coming down, seeing us,
my pleasure.
and I hope we can do it again sometime soon.
Yeah. When we get the first replica of this, I'll bring it down, and by that time I'll have them done. I mean, we could talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And see what happens there.
Yeah.
But until then, thanks for joining us. And until next time, I've been Rob. And
I've been Guy.
So thanks for coming in, Guy.
My pleasure. Can't we drink now? Well, fuck.